When we return to our planet, the High Court may well sentence you to torture.
He likes movies, we like movies. Septum Sin versus the world. Septum Sin versus the world. Septum Sin versus the world. Septum Sin versus the world.
I'd buy that for $1.
Greetings! You're watching Septum Sin versus the World. I'm Septum Sin. I'm here with Kotobuki Jake.
Hey.
And we're here to talk to you about strange things. Do not adjust your TV sets, as we will bring you the dimensions of sight and sound and various other things that have to do with physical media. There are some very strange things out in the land of physical media.
Indeed.
And we want to bring you 10 things each from our collections. We're hoping that you'll like this video and let us know if you enjoy it, because we want to make this a continuing series. Maybe once every few months, maybe a couple times a year, we might return to this. Well, we've got plenty of strange things. So, who wants to go first with the strangeness?
Why don't you go first?
All
This
right.
is your idea.
And a strange idea it is.
Yes, indeed.
Alright, my first comes from the Criterion Collection. And
I
this
already know where
one
this is going.
is a movie that is filled with horrors, ghosts, and bad, nasty things that go bump in the night. And that is House.
How did I know?
This is not the house that we know of from that had our Cheers alums. This, which is also an odd one. I mean, I have to. It might come back on a later one.
You know what would have been awesome? They could have had the English dub by the cast of Cheers.
But this one is about these girls that go to this house and get dismembered and killed and all sorts of bad things. But it is just incredibly strange. I have yet to come across something quite as surreal.
Yes.
I mean, look at that cover. Which is, I believe, a cat that's on there. So, if you haven't checked this film out, it's not that expensive on the Criterion. You get it on the sale, you can get it for $15 probably. So, I would definitely check this out. It's well worth a watch.
Oh, yeah.
It's a drug trip, most assuredly.
And maybe, if we're lucky, it may be in next month's Inside Movies Galore lineup.
Yeah, it's going to be on the vote. So
We'll see. So, I'm actually going to start off with something different.
no, something completely different.
This is a animated Western
Wow.
featuring anthropomorphic characters, the chief of which is a chameleon. And it's a Hunter Thompson fueled acid trip for kids. Not for kids exactly, but, you know, for a young audience. I'm talking, of course, of Johnny Depp's Rango. I love this film, but it is batshit crazy. This is a weird movie, and the fact that this film exists, just intrigues me. But, you know, and it's got a great cast. You know, you got Alfred Molina, Ela Fisher, Bill Nighy, Harry Dean Stanton, Ray Winstone. You got all these great people. Timothy Olyphant as the Spirit of the West, who, if I remember correctly, was the man with no name. I mean, but didn't he drive around in a golf cart with a bunch of Oscars?
Yes.
Yes, I love that. and it's a Gore Verbinski film. This is just a weird film, and I believe it did win the Oscar for animated feature, didn't it?
It did.
It was actually not up against Pixar, which helped a lot, but
I think Pixar was in one of their bad years.
it may be. But
Is that when Cars 2 came out?
it might have been. I don't remember. My dates run together like nobody's business. But anyway, there, Rango. Which actually, that's another thing. The name is a play on Django, so that's kind of another reference the kids won't get.
Well, my next one is an anime, and we've talked about this on this channel before.
Yes.
And it's also on a lot of lists for strangest anime.
Yes.
And we even did an Inside Movies Galore discussion about it. It was one of those mini ones that we did with just 3 of us, and that is Cat Soup. I think I even had it on my top 10 anime list. It's just such an enjoyable feature. But I don't think you would say that this is not strange by any way, shape, or form. I'd say that this is probably one of the artsiest anime I have actually watched. So, if you haven't checked out Cat Soup, you should. It's about family, and what family are willing to do to try and risk themselves for one another, told in a batshit insane way. You've got weird elephants made of water. You've got people. People eating their companions, and then wearing the skin. You've got a whole bunch of strange stuff. So, if you enjoy the weird, check this out.
Yeah. I didn't even think about using this week's pickups for this, and it's really weird with some of the stuff I'm looking at there. But anyway, so I actually brought a little bit of music for mine, and this one intrigues me because it's something that really probably shouldn't work, which is basically Swedish dance hall pop country with a very strange title and album. And this is the group called the Rednecks and their album Sex and Violins, which I love the... and of course, this album is well known for the single Cotton Eye Joe, which everyone knows that song. But this has such weird, random... Some of this stuff is incredibly risque. Hit in the Hay, for example. And then you got my favorite one is called The Sad But True Story of Ray Mingus, the lumberjack of Bulk Rock City, and his never slacking strive to exploit the so far undiscovered areas of the intention to bodily intercourse from the opposite species of his kind during intake of all the mental conditions that could be derived from fermentation. In other words, Ray Mingus, the drunk looking for sex. But that is such a long title, and it's such
the chorus is so fun.
It's one of the most graphically inappropriate songs ever made. If that song were released today in the Me Too climate, I have a feeling that either people would be excoriated for daring to do that song, or praised for daring to do that song, and probably both by different crowds.
It would definitely be a thing of,
But this is just, and it actually contains some genuinely lovely songs. Wish You Were Here and Rolling Home are very pretty songs, gorgeous songs. It's a really good album. It's really well made. It's weird as shit.
Well, my next one is also in the same line of Cat Soup. Also an anime, and also very strange. This one is called Dead Leaves. So you have these two people people being a loose term, as one of them has a TV set for a head, waking up and not knowing who they are, going on a rampage, ending up at a prison planet, breaking out, and then having a fully grown baby emerge pistol side first from the pants of the main female protagonist. And that's just the minor edge of it. This is non-stop action from the get-go. But it is very graphic, violence and sex-wise, but it's so much at the same time, and it's so strange, it just overwhelms the senses. So it's not just overwhelming for the fact it's odd as heck, but it's just overwhelming for all of the sensory just explosion that it puts in there. You've seen this one.
Yes.
Unfortunately, right?
Unfortunately. Actually, the ones he's presented so far, the first two I do own, and I considered. Cat Soup, I forgot about House somehow. But Dead Leaves, I do not yet own. I didn't really like it, but one day I'll have to. And actually, I considered an anime that's in that vein, but I had to narrow it down to 10. And actually, that's a good segue into my next one. I am a huge fan of the trio known as Nickel Creek. Huge fan. And I'm a huge fan of all three of the members of Nickel Creek, Sarah Watkins, Sean Watkins, and Chris Thiele. And I very much enjoy Chris Thiele's new show, Live From Here, which was the Prairie Home Companion until stupid shit happened and Garrison Keillor... that's a long and painful thing. But anyway, Thiele is... He is brilliant. He is brilliant. There's no two ways about it. But he is unbelievably experimental. The only other person I can think of offhand who's exactly on that wavelength is Jack White. The two of them are insane, but they're brilliant.
Yeah.
And some of the stuff they do, it sounds insane. And he did do an album called How to Grow a Woman from the Ground that Dead Leaves reminds me of that, because I think there's a song on there with that title or something. But the one I decided to bring is the album Deceiver. And Deceiver is aptly named because I felt deceived when I listened to it. It has a couple... apparently there was a game that the three of them would play, a game/exercise. When they were on tour, they would come up with a title and all write a song with that title. And Sean Watkins' song On Ice is freaking incredible. There is an On Ice on here. But the first time I ever heard them perform, they did a song that was a tribute to Melvin Udall, who is Jack Nicholson's character in As Good As It Gets. And it was called Locking Doors, and it's a great song, and I love it. And Thiele put the first ever recorded version on this album. And it's weird. He is so experimental on this album. So experimental. Much of this is borderline even for me. And as a fan of his and a collector, I will definitely keep this album. But it's insane. It's absolutely insane, and it's definitely his least commercial project I've heard.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Well, my next one is a TV series. It's not an anime, but it is from... it's kind of weird. I apparently went from mostly Japan.
And I have that one, and yes, I love that one.
And we're talking The Great Horror Family.
Yes.
I had some other stuff, and the next time we revisit this, I probably will be bringing in some other media other than just movies and TV. But, and I actually have that Rednecks album. I had thought about that one, oddly enough. But
I'm surprised you didn't bring some Weird Al in.
This is just strange, and it's one that I think people overlook. I mean, it's almost it looks like it's an animated one from the cover, but it's all live action. And it really follows along this family that is living in, I believe, this haunted house. And it's just constant horror movie tropes. Japanese horror tropes. Like, they have the girl from The Grudge, essentially, who kind of has a crush on the main character, and
Isn't it the creator of The Grudge who does this series?
Yes, it is.
Yes.
The Joan creator did this series, which also makes this fun.
Mm-hmm.
I would, if you haven't watched this, I might break this out and watch this again in October. Looking for something fun to watch.
Good times.
Definitely get me away from Downton Abbey for a while.
So, I'm going to actually dive into that well that he's been talking about. I brought a couple of anime, and one of them is a series that's a hell of a lot of fun. It's 15-minute short episodes, and it is weird as hell, but it is, to my mind, the closest thing that I have seen in anime to your average Adult Swim program, and that is Cromartie High School. Cromartie High is just great. It's great. But you've got this, it's a school for delinquents. And you've got, each one of these albums is like a riff on a famous album cover, or, you know, you got you got some Queen, you got some Beatles, you got some, who was this one again? Is that Elton John?
I have no idea on that
I don't
one.
remember. But anyway, so you got all these people. You got the main guy. This is actually kind of, well, I think they describe him early on as a rabbit among lions. He's really just kind of a regular guy who's very logical and just without fear. He just walks into these situations. You got this dude who just walks along with him, and he's got the dancing purple hair. This guy, this guy looks like a thug. You've got a robot who doesn't really fully realize he's a robot. A gorilla. Yes.
And then Freddy,
and
of
then
course.
Freddy, the guy that looks almost just like Freddie Mercury. And he doesn't speak. He just goes around looking and posing all the
Yes.
time. And they're just... Each episode, it's, again, you follow these delinquents on all these misadventures, including other schools for delinquents in the area, and almost the entire cast is male. There's only a couple of female characters that have like one or two
I like the
appearances
end where they
each.
do the all-female Cromartie High, where it's just
Right.
basically all the characters looking, basically dressed up as female.
Right, and I think they actually had a female... Yeah, they have the female Freddy right there.
Oh, God.
But it's, actually wearing a shirt. Most of the time, Freddy doesn't wear a shirt. It's weird. But it genuinely, if you like Adult Swim, you will probably like this series. And it is fun.
It needs a Blu-ray re-release.
It really does, yeah.
You need to get, like, the box for that, the art box.
I need to just get a better release. This, I just picked up, at the local movie stop, and I've regretted buying this copy, but whatever. One day I'll get a better copy.
I've got those, but I
Yeah.
got the box that goes around it.
Yeah.
Now, my next one is a Jackie Chan film, because we all know, not the one that Dave showed us.
We should have... Oh, man, that was weird.
If I had that one on Blu-ray or DVD, I probably would have.
Yes.
But this one is City Hunter, the live-action adaptation. For those of you who aren't familiar, City Hunter is an anime and a manga that is this guy who does all these mercenary odd jobs. And he is a horn dog.
Yeah.
So Jackie Chan plays him in this. And it gets really strange. One of the last fights that's probably the most familiar for the whole is when he gets into the fight with one of the major baddies and runs into an arcade, and then they both end up going at it as Street Fighter 2 characters. Where there's that scene online, you can see it, of him dressed as Chun-Li doing the Chun-Li kicks. This is a wild ride from the get-go, and if you haven't seen it, this was my introduction to City Hunter back in college when I was at Roanoke.
Right.
And a friend of ours actually really loved this. He wasn't as big on the anime, but he loved that movie, and I had to get a hold of a copy myself. It was just that fun.
And from what I hear, it's probably better than the actual Street Fighter movie.
Yeah, well...
So, Speaking of a movie that is divisive to some, as we have found out when I presented it as a possible option for our Inside Movies Galore discussion, you don't get all that much weirder than the films of Quentin Dupieux. And I have the film Rubber here, which is a sort of a slasher film. Well, that's not really a slasher. No one's really slashing anyone. But it's about a tire with psychokinetic powers that goes around blowing people's heads up.
Yeah.
And all the while, you have a subplot of an audience watching this movie take place. Yeah. And it's just weird. And it's complex and crazy. And it's...
it pokes fun at the art house community.
Really
like nobody's
does.
Business.
Yes, it really does. And then Dupieux came back with Wrong, which was even more messed up than this one was. But it's just you gotta love a movie about a tire that kills people.
See, I've only got 2 more anime on this list, so I'm going to just go through those. I won't go on both at once, but
right.
So just so you all know that there are some American films on this list.
Yeah.
For me. But this one is one that I saw originally, and after seeing the opening for it, it just still to this day,
lovely little song.
it is hilarious. I had to get the song. I own the soundtrack, which I could have put that up also if I wanted to. And that is Magical Witch Puni-chan. I thought that they were never going to release this on DVD, that they did finally do it. And of course, this makes fun of the magical girl genre,
Right.
where you've got this magical girl that also uses wrestling moves.
Yes.
And it really does.
You got to read that line at the bottom of the cover, on the front cover.
Lyrical Totoro, kill them all. Yes. If you haven't, you should go on YouTube. It's probably on there, and watch the opening theme for this. It is hilarious. There is a part in this where they're making curry, and you have the live vegetables, where one of them is committing ritual suicide in order to skin himself and drop himself into the pot. It is one of those few times where watching somebody peel the skin off of a potato actually made me cringe a little bit. This thing is...
I hear the screams of the vegetables.
This thing is truly off the wall.
Oh, that's someone else I forgot.
If you haven't checked this out, if you like things like Cell Saga or Dokoro-chan, it's in those veins.
I almost brought Dokoro-chan.
You should watch this.
So, I will do another music one. This is my last album I'm going to present. And another musician group, what have you, artist that is famous for being weird, but are also fairly brilliant, are the jam band Fish. And Fish has done a lot of weird stuff over the years. The first album I ever got by them is arguably one of the weirder ones they've done, and it's a great album, but I love the cover, it's so weird. And that is the album The Story of the Ghost, which has that really strange picture on it.
That's creepy as heck.
And the first song on the album is Ghost. And Ghost is a wonderful song, but it is a weird song. You've got Goyuti, which is an 8.5-minute song that starts with the phrase, Goyuti was the ugly pig, and it just goes from there. And it's sort of like, there's all these musical interludes, and it's actually a really cool song. You've got some really... Shafty is a weird song. Waiting in the Velvet Sea. It's an uneven album. A couple of the songs are a little weak, but overall, definitely I feel like this group deserves mention when we're talking weird artists. And this album is representative. Both it's the first one I got, and just that picture just is...
That'll haunt your nightmares right there.
Exactly.
See, my next one, the last anime on my list, is one I saw at first on Cartoon Network. I was watching Toonami and I saw an advert for it and I was like, okay, I've got to check this out. This looks entertaining. I thought it was something that had to do with like food and an anime. And I found out it was much stranger than that. And I'm talking Bo.
Yes. That is strange.
Now, they started a release and then didn't get anywhere with it. But then, some more entertainment, which never got to finish Galaxy Railways,
too.
did do a full release. Unfortunately, they did not do a good sub-track. Though they did do the original Japanese on here, you cannot get the actual real dub track. It's just the English with the hard of hearing for. But you can see these here. This really was the part I was worried so much wasn't going to come out. I mean, this part I wasn't really worried about coming out, but I figured it wouldn't sell much because you either really love it like me, or you kind of hate it. I don't run into a lot of people who say, yeah, it's okay. It's usually loved or hated. It's done in sort of that Pokemon style art. And essentially, you have Bobobo, who is one of the last of the Hair Kingdom. And he uses his Fist of the Nose hair to fight against evil. Because they have to fight the evil Baldy Bald, who is... Because he's bald, he's mad, so he's trying to make it so everybody is bald. So he's the rebel. And he gets lots of people who help him along the way.
People.
Like Jelly Jiggler, Papa Rocks, Beauty, Gasser, and various others in this as they fight some of the generals. This is kind of shonen on drugs. I felt like it's one of those things where they just had the writers take speed, gave them the original storyline, and say, okay, go through this. And I've read the manga, and it's much tamer compared to this.
I think he gave me the first volume to read at one point, and I read it, and I was like, nah. The show, he made the horrible mistake of trying to help introduce me to anime with this show. And I actually did take to it at first. But then when I went back and watched it later, I was like, holy crap, this is crazy.
This thing is batshit insane. It's a bit too much for a lot of people. It's too much of an overload of just insanity. It's constantly, to me, I like it because there's a certain part where things get so strange where you just stop thinking. And this goes there repeatedly. Matter of fact, it's hard to think about anything going on at any time. Right. It's always, okay, we're going, whoop, okay, wait, we're back, nope, and it keeps going way off the path. It's almost sort of reminds me of Gintama in a way. Gintama is much more down to earth, but a lot of that the manga with Gintama is much more down to earth. It has that humor to it, but it's not nearly as wild or out there as the anime is.
And yes, Gintama is supposed to be pretty out there.
And that's the last of my anime.
Yes.
For this list.
So this seems like an appropriate time to bring in my other anime. When you are watching, when you've seen a lot of stuff, sometimes you'll see things and you're like, this feels like one particular person's imprint on it. And sometimes it can be totally random. And I have seen anime that very much reminded me of other directors and other works. Good examples, Black Lagoon, which very much feels like Quentin Tarantino or John Woo or both had a hand in that one.
Yeah.
You know, you have those. There was one that I saw that I thought, this feels like a David Lynch film. This feels like it's a twisted, beautiful, wonderful fever dream of a series. This feels like a David Lynch film. And from what I understand, this is the hallmark of the director, which is Kunihiko Ikeda. And Kunihiko Ikeda did this series called Penguin Drum.
Oh my, yeah.
Which basically, it starts off the first series, first episode. You have these two brothers, and I don't really see a picture of the two brothers anyway.
Well, they're not important. They're just the main characters.
They're really not. They're two brothers, and they have a sister. And the sister is sickly, and halfway through the first episode, she up and dies. And then somehow this magical penguin hat brings her back to life, and she, every now and then, is taken over by the hat, which sends the brothers on this crazy quest for the penguin drum. Meanwhile, you got this crazy stalker girl, I think it's this girl here, and
Rango.
you got all kinds of other crazy, and then penguins galore. And every time the character transforms, you get this wonderful musical sequence with this awesome song that plays every single time. Anything that by Ikeda. Ikeda also did Revolutionary Girl Atena.
Oh yeah, also
And he
strange.
did Yurikuma Arashi, which is a very strange series as well. And this series, this season's Sarazanmai, or the spring, Sarazanmai, Kunihiko Ikeda is got several hallmarks to his series. One is he loves geometric patterns, and his series are always very visually impressive. There's a lot of art there on the screen. This one was a gorgeous series.
And musically gorgeous, too.
Musically
yes.
gorgeous as well. And he also doesn't shy away from weird ass crazy stuff that often has a very sexual overtone. Don't watch Yurikuma Arashi at work. This one you probably could, but people would walk by going, "What the hell are you watching?" But
Research.
but this is a great show. And again, I think if David Lynch made an anime, this is probably the one he would have made. Yeah.
I need to see more of his stuff. I have watched Utena. I mean, they had a girl turn into a car in the movie.
I've seen the movie. I've not seen the series.
The movie is way weirder than the series. The series kind of gets repetitive after a while, but they're still pretty good.
Right.
All right, so into the movies.
Ooh.
Well, live-action movies can't be as weird as anime, right? Well, I've got a few live actions already, but can they can they get odder than that? Well, I tell you that there are monsters that are under our beds at night that frighten us all. But sometimes you can take those monsters out. But what do you do when the monster is the bed?
The bed that eats. I love it.
It's a movie called Deathbed. And this is about an evil bed that is a spawn of the devil. I don't exactly understand the whole concept of the devil screwed somebody and then there was a bed that was born. I don't really remember. I don't understand it entirely, but apparently it lures people into this crypt, and there's this nice bed in this crypt. So people just decide to lay down on the bed that's in the crypt, which you do.
Well, obviously.
So you do, like anyone else would, and it eats them.
Oh God.
To me, it would probably be one of the most ineffective monsters out there, but apparently can also control a lot of reality within that little crypt. So it can really screw with things. It is very surreal. And for 1977, this is a very interesting film.
Wait a minute. 1977?
Correct.
Isn't that the same year House came out?
Yes.
And doesn't House have a deathbed?
It might.
I think it does.
Wow.
Well, you talk about weird themes.
Interesting year that year.
Makes you wonder what was going on. Okay. So, back to the music, but not an album. If you watched, when you watched our last week's video, you know I presented Ray Stevens' comedy video classics. And let's face it, Ray Stevens is weird.
Yes.
And some of these are weird. I have not seen most of these videos yet, but I have seen the video for Santa Claus is Watching You, and I think I saw the video for the Mississippi Squirrel Revival, and definitely those are some weird videos. And just look at his expression. That alone's kind of fun.
Oh, I remember now.
Okay.
Yeah, those are good. I like the streak. It was really fun.
Yes.
I'm thinking, okay, so one film that I was thinking of was the Happy Time Murders.
Oh, yeah.
So
Did you ever get around to watching that?
Never have.
I haven't
I've heard
either.
it was terrible.
Yes.
But before that, we had never really seen puppets doing that level of disgusting, depraved crap before on the big screen. Or at least not widely. But Peter Jackson, well, he knows. And he knows what we want. We want all the depraved puppets we can get. Or Muppets, as they would be called. Even though I'm not sure Jim Henson really had much of a hand in this. That's an interesting way of thinking about it. As his son did in the Happy Time Murders. But we have Meet the Feebles. This was a dirty and gritty movie about the seedy underworld of the city, starring puppets. This one is disgusting on many levels. If it was done as live action, like, regular, like people acting it, it would still be disgusting on many levels. I have to commend the work done. From what I've heard, this is actually much better done than the other. I think I might watch those two back to back at some point, just to see if I can get a good point of reference.
Right.
But from what I've heard, this is much better. I've heard that he's going to get some re-releases of some of his early stuff. I think Dead Alive, and this one, and another one that I really want to get, but it's going to do a Blu-ray transfer up, which would be good because the quality is not the best on this release. But you got to admit, it's really kind of cool looking. For kids,
Yeah, for kids. And speaking of for kids, there is an entire, I guess at this point, maybe 3 generations worth of people, definitely 2 generations at least, who are, in some cases, very, very much influenced by the writings of gonzo journalist and crazed writer, the late Hunter S. Thompson. Rango being a very definite... In fact, I meant to mention, there is a visual... Thompson appears on screen in this, even though I think he had died at that point. But he was known to be a friend of Johnny Depp, and the two of them did some collaboration, and Depp worked tirelessly to make Thompson's work better known, because he was one of those people very, 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 very influenced by Thompson. But one film that brings together the crazy of Johnny Depp and the crazy of Hunter Thompson with the help of the crazy of former Monty Python Terry Gilliam is the classic film that is an adaptation of the classic short, you could call it a short story or a piece of journalism, depending on how you look at it, by Hunter Thompson, called Fear and Loathing in Las Vegas. I have read Fear and Loathing. It is a very interesting piece of work. I've seen the movie and watched, this is the Criterion edition. I have watched all the supplements on this. There is a lot that went into this. There is a lot of love that went into this from both Gilliam and Depp. Thompson actually did appear in this in a very brief scene. And And from what I understand, Depp's portrayal of Thompson was spot on.
Oh.
He did a really good job. But technically, he wasn't playing Thompson. Technically, he and the character played by Benicio del Toro were thinly fictionalized versions. Hunter Thompson was well known for sampling a large amount of pharmaceuticals during the, among other things. I have also read his account of the Kentucky Derby and his account of coming back from Mexico with drugs on his person. And both of those were they were not for the faint of heart. I've also read some of his writings on Richard Nixon. He loathed Richard Nixon.
That's an interesting cover.
Yes. So there's some. That is a weird cover. And of course, this is the two of them riding through the desert outside Sin City with the bats. And of course, the famous line, "We can't stop here. This is bat country." It's like,
I need to rewatch that film.
it is a great fun film. It's messed up. It does include a who's who of supporting cast. You got Tobey Maguire, Cameron Diaz, Christina Ricci, a whole bunch of people showed up. There are a couple of scenes that are so weird that it's painful to watch. It's just Terry Gilliam. Any film he does will go off the rails at some point.
Yeah.
Even if it looks like he's holding it tight in the center of the road at the beginning of the film, The Man Who Killed Don Quixote starts off like a relatively normal film. And it goes off the rails by the end. I guarantee you this one goes well off the rails. The only other one that I could think of by him that I would have put up for this, I don't actually own. Tideland might be just as weird.
Yeah,
which is one reason why a lot of people hated it.
Oh,
But
Tideland.
this was a good film. It was better than Tideland, but both of them are weird.
I was going to say, the Tideland was
films.
done well. It was just very
Yeah.
depressing and dark.
Oh, God, it was dark. But if you are somehow not familiar with Terry Gilliam, give him a go, definitely.
Shoot, any of his films could be on that list.
Any of his films could be. If you want to start with something a little less crazy, maybe 12 Monkeys,
Yeah.
maybe Brazil.
I don't know.
That's kind of hard to say.
Brazil's a bit crazy.
Brazil is widely renowned as one of his best films, but it's kind of a weird one. Maybe The Fisher King.
Maybe.
Or The Imaginarium of Dr. Parnassus. Maybe. Those are all good films. They're all good entry points. But then move on to this one.
Well, my last. Down to the end. Well, we were down at the beach not too long ago, and you know, when you're in the beach, you got to watch out for sharks. I mean, when we're out in the ocean, right? But you know, one place we were not careful about was in our very homes.
I know where this is going.
And this has actually been explored in a real topic for house shark. This also has an alternative cover.
That might be why the upstairs
there's a-
toilet wasn't working properly.
See, and here we have the signatures of a lot of the cast here on my copy.
Oh, God.
But this film has this family who is literally torn apart by a shark, as you can see, as it materializes over there in the toilet there. And how many moons later, the man must get back into the house and take out the shark once and for all. I think that's all I need to say about that one. House Shark. Get it. It's really fun.
Oh, God.
It's a bit long. I think that's the only thing. If it was edited a little bit more, I think it would be perfect. As far as movies go, though, as far as shark movies go, where a shark is actually attacking people in their homes, this is probably one of the best.
I'm sure at least one of the Sharknado movies has that happen. So, my last one is a name that I've mentioned earlier on this list. I figure you can't really talk about weird-ass stuff without talking about Terry Gilliam and David Lynch. And there's a lot of potential David Lynch movies to bring up. I do not own Eraserhead, and I do not own the series Twin Peaks, but I do own Twin Peaks Fire Walk with Me. I do own Blue Velvet.
Well, you do own Perfect Blue, but...
I thought about Satoshi Kon, maybe on the next one. But yeah, Blue Velvet was very tempting. It does get weird as hell. And I really was tempted to do Mulholland Drive, which is, as I said with Penguin Drum, a beautiful, twisted fever dream. It really is. It's a fever dream. You know, I'm giving away a little bit there. But anyway, I had to go with his weirdest one that I've watched all the way through. I think we watched, 2 minutes of Eraserhead?
It was strange.
Yes. But of the ones I've watched all the way through, okay, David Lynch, Willem Dafoe, Nicolas Cage, you know something weird's going to happen.
Yeah.
And you know it's really messed up when Nicolas Cage is not the primary reason that it's gone insane. And I'm talking, of course, of the film Wild at Heart, which is basically David Lynch's answer to a Harlequin romance about Nicolas Cage and Laura Dern as lovers on the run. Cage is obsessed with Elvis, and if I remember correctly, he tries to be Elvis. And Dern's mother is played by, I believe, her real-life mother, if I remember correctly, Diane Ladd, and she's insane. And not only that, Crispin Glover's in this too. I'd forgotten about Crispin Glover. But the biggest thing about this is not only is it already a David Lynch uber melodrama with Nicolas Cage at the center, Willem Dafoe, a man known for playing creepy and disturbed characters, I guarantee you have never seen him more creepy and disturbed than he is in this film. Willem Dafoe puts every other role I've seen him to shame for creepiness and utter depravity. He made my skin crawl, the scenes he was in. Ooh. This is not the best David Lynch film by any means, but if we're talking weird ass, it is definitely near the top. It is very weird. It is very crazy. It is worth a watch, if only to say, yeah I saw that. But it definitely, if you want weird movies, you gotta look at David Lynch's stuff. It's just crazy.
Well, that was our lists. I just hope you all enjoyed it, and hopefully we will do another one in the future. Maybe we'll just do 5 each or something, make it just a full 10.
Yeah.
But
well,
any
we
case,
still got this in clear under an hour, so that's good.
So, any case, I hope you enjoy it. Let us know below if there's any that we... I mean, there's a ton we left out.
Oh, yeah.
But that's why this is ongoing. This is why it's not a top 10. This is just, 10 that we found were interesting. And we will... and I thought of many more, actually, as we were doing this.
When you have a collection as large as his or as large as mine, you're going to find some weird stuff.
Especially if you open it up to all media. TV, movies, music. I ain't touched my music and comics. And,
I thought about
books.
comics and books, but I didn't really want to lug them here for this one.
Yeah.
Maybe later. Yeah.
So, any case, I hope you've enjoyed. Hit that like button, subscribe, and share. And we'll see you on the next one. Goodbye.
Bye.